spanning the entire globe, involving hundreds of different cultures, explaining the same phenomenon by different names.
The nature of the footprints, namely their remarkable consistency, their biomechanical appropriateness, those aspects that are extremely compelling.
We're not in the studio yet.
Oh, okay.
When this ends, we're going to bounce right in.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to the Bigfoot Influencers. My name is Tim Halloran.
And I'm Dana Halloran. We're so excited to have you guys here today. We have some special guests.
We do, yeah.
Yep.
We're so thrilled to have our guests today. And we're thrilled for you guys. I want to thank you, everyone, for joining, tuning in every week. Feedback, a big shout out to Charlotte J. Super nice comments. She got our back when we're out there. So thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
that.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
We love you, girl.
And we enjoy each and every one of you. And we're glad you tune in. Mm-hmm. So today we have a couple of awesome guests. Another double date one.
It's a double date here on the Bigfoot Influencers. We're so excited because we have Montra and Kyle.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody about Montra?
Yeah, a little bit about both of them. Some of you may not need an introduction to them. Others may not know who they are, like some of us over on the East Coast, because we're, it gets a little weird that way. But decades. They look like they're, 25, 30 years old. But
they look like Barbie and Ken.
But they've been doing this for a long time. And we're just excited to have them here. So
we are so excited.
We're going to bring them in and we're going to have some fun.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
I love that background there. That looks like a fierce fireplace back there.
It is.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a pretty
Is it like a whole wall of stone back there?
Yeah. Yep.
That is so super cool. That was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, we need to do that to our fireplace.
Yeah. We got to get a real fireplace first.
I know.
Got our gas one, so it wouldn't be right without a gas fire. A wood burning fireplace. So.
I know. So where are you guys located?
So we're in Oregon now. We're up towards the northeast corner of Oregon. We just recently got here, and so we're learning the area pretty quickly, and it's really smoky out right now. So there might be like a weird hue in here. I can't tell because there's windows.
There is. I didn't know that was like a filter. It was like that sexy smoky thing going on. I didn't know what was.
Yeah, there must be there's probably a big fire somewhere real close.
Yeah, I haven't watched the news in like.
I think there's some stuff going on there in Canada.
But is it on the west side? Near British
Columbia? It's on the west. I think that's what I heard, but I'm not.
Yeah,
that's
probably
real quick this morning. Yeah,
it's bad out there. So we just we have horses here too, and we just turned them out to run around. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I guess they're breathing it no matter what anyway. So. Oh, well.
Yeah, it's over 100. It's over 100 degrees out there right now, and the wind's blowing. So when you go out there, it feels like you're in an oven.
No fun, guys. Yeah, we had an experience like this. I guess it was a couple months ago here on the East Coast with fires in Canada and the smoke coming down. It was literally like it just burned your eyes, and you just felt like you couldn't breathe right. And so let's all hope that everything gets put out and everybody stays safe, though, for sure.
Definitely. Yes.
It's definitely a phenomenon different than the one we're going to be talking about tonight, but it's a phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to, before we kind of talk about the subject and with you guys, we could talk about, we're here to talk about Bigfoot, but who knows where it's going to go. But you guys get into some cool things. But can you tell the audience how you guys met?
Well, we actually met at kind of a private convention kind of thing that happens once a year. And,
Bigfoot convention.
Yeah, that some friends of ours had, and they've since passed the torch to some other people. But so we met there, and then about a year later, a little less than a year later, we were on our way to changing our lives. So yeah, it's been we've been together now. Let's see, the end of this month will be 6 years.
6 years,
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
you guys.
Yeah.
You guys just moved to Oregon. Where did you guys move from?
We were in the Tri-Cities in Washington, which is kind of the southern eastern area.
Along the Columbia River.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, cool.
Yeah. And very close to the Hanford nuclear
reservation. Yeah.
Yeah, which
Okay.
is kind of a very interesting place to look up in the sky at night. But anyway, that's another
Okay.
story.
And Montra, I think you need to give Kyle a high five because he remembered the 6 years. I mean, that's like it wasn't a test.
Well,
but he knew it.
I've been dropping hints like the past few days, so he does get a high five.
Yeah. I gotta stay in the good graces.
So what are some things you guys like to do outside of Bigfoot? I mean, I heard that you have horses, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, we like to do a lot of other kind of more in the paranormal stuff too. We do, I mean, the term's so overused, but ghost hunting or whatever you want to call it. We do that. We do a lot of investigative work in that kind of genre. And Kyle's been doing UFO stuff since before we met. So we kind of blended. In my background, when I was 16 and a half and I got my driver's license, I was on my way to try and get my first DVPs. I mean, that was like my whole thing when I was a kid and in my teen years and early adulthood. But so we kind of have sort of the triangle of things that Sasquatch, UFO, and then also the paranormal stuff.
Yeah, just really into the unknown stuff. There's just so many things out there that you can learn, and there's just so much information out there, and you take in the information, and then you got to figure it out for yourself whether that information is good or not. So it's a lot of it's like a big puzzle, just putting a big puzzle together.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, and I feel like we've definitely come a long way with the UFO thing for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's hope that happens with other things as well.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see mainstream scientists studying these phenomenons.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine, ours of the show, DJ from Calling All Beans. He's got an interesting theory. He said, what if some of the Bigfoot sightings actually came from deceased Bigfoots, and people were actually seeing ghosts? That wasn't my thing, but it was an interesting theory he had.
That's a really interesting theory.
Okay.
Wow, I've never heard that one before. That's great.
He didn't say all of them, but he said some of them. He said you never know if that could happen.
So
that's something that will probably wake me up in the middle of the night, and I'll be thinking about it like 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, I'll start Googling.
Well, we're right below the reservoir, so we have a creek out in our backyard, a river in our backyard, and it goes up to the Blue Mountains. Where a lot of the Bigfoot sightings are. So I mean, we haven't had anything yet happen here, but in time we'll probably have. There'll probably be something going on.
There might be some activity here. Who knows? Yeah. So, by the way, if you hear thumping and bumping, I apologize. We have a Sasquatch in the basement. No, just kidding. we have dogs, and so they're not happy that they're not in here.
They're probably like, why did Mommy and Daddy lock us down here?
I know. What's happening? We're not moving again, are we?
Oh yeah, they know because they're so sensitive, and we do that. Every once in a while, we have one of the cats. We don't have any dogs anymore. Unfortunately, they passed away. But every once in a while, the cat will jump up on our lap during the podcast because we either forget to leave the door closed or we got to keep one in here for some reason. So
we have like one in here because she has like an injured tail, and the other. Are the others inside?
There, yeah.
Yeah. So we have 3. They come from the woods. They just come to us, and now
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really sweet.
Cats are so interesting. We have how many cats do we have?
Well, my sister has 2. She lives here, and then
we have one. Yeah, so we have 3 of them. Yeah.
But
we have 3 now. So
they're definitely different than dogs.
Tim's not necessarily a cat person, but
cats are a lot easier than dogs. Actually,
they are.
But they
do their
love
own
him.
thing.
Yeah, they're not loyal like dogs, but they are easy.
They're very independent.
Very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no unconditional love when it comes to cats.
No.
It's pretty cool out here though, because where we live, it's like a farm. So not only do we have horses, the neighbors have all kinds of different goats, chickens. I mean, there's every pet known to man out here. We have a pig next door.
Oh,
that's a lot of fun.
It's pretty cool.
He's super cute.
Yeah. So when you come down the driveway, you get to see everybody else's stuff too before you get to our place. We're at the very end of the drive.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I wish we could have chickens.
Yeah.
We can't.
So, well, we wanted to ask you, and you guys can take turns or go in tandem. you know, this is probably a question you get all the time. And of course, going back to you guys have been involved in a while. Can you share when and how you got involved in the subject of Bigfoot?
You want to go first?
Go ahead.
Me?
Let you go first. Yeah.
No, I got the short
High
straw.
five him again. Look at him. He's getting the brownie points.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make it as short as I can here. But when I was right around 12 or 13 years old, I had a sighting of something out in the woods. And it's kind of a lengthy story, but I was, just lost our screen. There we go. That threw me for a second. So anyway, about 12 or 13. And so it was something that pretty much scared the crud out of me. And we were camping. I was with my parents. They didn't know that I had gone out just a little ways, about a city block out into the woods. And I was looking for a little friend of mine that was also camping in that campground. We'd been there a couple of weeks and didn't find her, but I felt someone staring at me or something staring at me. You know how you get that feeling where your kind of hair sticks up on the back of your neck? And I had turned around thinking she was out there somewhere and looked down the little footpath I had just walked down, and there was a tree, I don't know, probably like, about 15 feet or something in front of me. And I could see this arm, what appeared to be an arm, wrapped around the tree. And it had long hair. I could see an opposable thumb. And I'm looking at that. I wasn't scared. And I'm looking at that thinking, that just looks just like an arm, whatever that is, you know. And then as I'm looking at it, a face peeks out from behind the tree at me. And then I went into complete terror. And I had to go right by it to get back. So whatever that was, and it had a flat face. I could see the sclera, the white part of the eye. There was no smell, no sound. Anyway, I was not a fast kid, but I beelined it as fast as I could by it. And if whatever that was wanted to hurt me or grab me or whatever, it easily could have just clotheslined me as I ran by, but it didn't. And needless to say, I didn't look behind me, ran all the way back to the camper, didn't tell my parents because I would have gotten in trouble. And I was just absolutely scared out of my mind. And I never told anybody about it until I was in my 30s.
Wow.
Yeah. And
So that was last week.
that was actually tomorrow. Yeah. I wish. But actually I don't wish. Anyway,
I don't want to go back.
I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
No.
We don't either.
I've earned all these wrinkles and whatever scars
Well,
I have.
30s were okay.
Yeah, they
I don't know
were.
about 20s, but yeah. Go ahead.
So come over here. So anyhow, I told my oldest brother about what had happened, and he said, "Oh, you know what? You really need to get on the computer." This is when it was 1998 or 99, when the internet was just starting to become the thing. And he says, "Oh, there's this website, the BFRO. You need to get on there and file a report." And I was thinking, I'm not going to tell anybody else. People are going to think I'm an idiot, you know. So he says, no. And he talked me into it. And I said, okay. Went out there to the website, put in exactly what happened and where and all that stuff. And then I got a phone call. I think it was the next day or that night or something. And it was Kathy Strain. And so we talked for, oh my gosh, a couple hours. And it was almost like I'd known her forever. She's just the most wonderful person. And she said, "Hey, you want to go out and do some investigations?" And I said, "Yeah." So that's how it all started for me. And her and I used to go out and do field work and investigations. And she's still my very best friend. And
I think maybe, did I see you on a documentary with her?
Yes, they were out in the woods together.
Yeah.
I think that was you. Right?
No, or was it?
No.
Was Kathy and was you sure?
there was one that was, that's another long story, but anyway, that was one that I backed out of because of some stuff that was going on. So I wasn't able to do that. But she was one with a group of women
That was a
around the campfire.
It was Monster Quest.
Yeah.
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 That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Were you in that?
Mm-mm. She said
No. Okay.
Yeah. No, I backed out on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of how I ended up getting into it as entrenched in everything. So, and then in the meantime, Kyle was doing it for a very long time.
Yeah,
But more by himself.
Yeah, I grew up in a small city that the Yakima River kind of flows around the city. And as a kid, we'd go down there and fish because there was really good fishing. So we'd fish down there and we'd catch crawdads and build forts and all that kind of stuff. And really weird thing about down there, there's always something going on down there, just odd things happening down there. And I always knew, like, every time I go down there, like, I felt like somebody's watching me. And I'm like, they're fishing. Sometimes some of my friends in the neighborhood, they were like, they couldn't go, so I go by myself. And I go down there, and it's real deep. I've taken Montra down there, actually. I mean, the trees are thick. You can go down there and hide. Nobody will even know you're down there. But that goes all the way up, it follows the Yakima River all the way up into the Cascades, up into the mountains. And it was just really odd, like, growing up playing down there. I always felt like being watched, just really odd. And one time, as I was getting older, I was coming back from fishing one time, and saw something off in the distance. It just didn't look right. It was real dark, and kind of like put that in the back of our head, like, what was that we saw, And then another time, me and my friend, I'd just gotten my driver's license, and me and my friend decided to drive down there to go catfishing one night. And when we were driving, I had my lights on, and I saw two Bigfoot cross the road in front of my truck. Wow. And my buddy was sitting next to me, and we were just like, did you see that? Did you see that? And the weird thing was when I turned the lights on high beam, to get a better look, these things didn't jump or react or anything. They just walked slowly across the dirt road. I mean, like I wasn't even there. Wow. I mean, it wasn't a jump, a startle, or nothing. They just walked like, hey, they didn't care that we were there in the truck.
Were they both the same size, or
one was taller?
Okay.
At least a foot or more taller, I'd say. Okay. But I'll never forget, because when my lights of the truck hit one of them, its arm was up like this, and you could see this wispy hair. Just, you see the arm come up, and when my lights hit it, you could just see this thin wispy hair just blowing in the wind, kind of,
Mm-hmm. Similar to what Montra you saw when when you were 12.
Yeah, just burned it into my memory. I'm just like, wow, And my friend, he didn't know what to think. We never even really. Here's another thing: we didn't really talk about it because we didn't want people to think there was something wrong with us. We're just kind of. And my buddy's like, remember that time down there in the Yakima? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Did you still go fishing after you saw that?
I don't fish down there anymore, but me and Montra.
I mean, that night after you saw them, did you turn the truck around, or did you guys keep going?
No, we went home. we didn't stick around. There was no fish. That fishing pole didn't come out of the back of that truck.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We were like, we're done.
Yeah.
So that's what got you off on your venture of studying the Bigfoot phenomenon.
Yep.
And then how'd you take that to getting out in the woods and doing research?
Just kind of like one of those things. I grew up, my family is all hunter and fishermen. We'd hunt on the weekends, fish on the weekends. We're always taking trips, to different parts of the mountains. We'd go to the ocean. And so in my, quest of doing all that, being outdoors and being on those things, I always got my eyes open. I'm always looking on the ground for tracks. And then I noticed, a lot of times when we were out, elk hunting or deer hunting and stuff, I'd always be looking for tracks, like, hey, is there something around here that might be like that, and you get in these areas, along riverbanks where the trees are really thick and stuff, and I crawl underneath these little tunnel things that like the deer and stuff make, and sure enough, you'd find tracks down there. They wouldn't be wide out in the open where people get to them. You have to climb into some heavy brush and get in there, but you could find tracks.
That's a good point. That you're not necessarily going to find these tracks on the hiking trail, basically. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Only a few times in my life, in my whole entire life, have I seen them on like a hiking trail. A couple times, but most of the times when I go off path, and that's when I'm hunting and I'm climbing hillsides and going to areas where people just don't usually go.
Yeah, and on deer trail too, and things like that. And logging roads are another good place.
Yeah.
So.
It's
Yeah, I
like
think
they're pretty smart, you know, they got to be very intelligent. I mean, I know people think, oh, it's just got to be, you know, but I mean, obviously to stay away from us like they have, there's got to be some intelligence, you know.
Right, and with the terrain, I mean, depending on where you are in the country, like when we were just in Missouri hiking, there's not a lot of places to leave tracks because it's rocky. There's no soil. There's either duff or rock, and unless you're by a creek bed or a dirt road, you're not going to find. It's hard to find them anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's fascinating. So I'm going to go back to Montra.
Okay.
So you got involved, and then where did you take your, you know, when you said, obviously you mentioned you and Kathy, who we love, Kathy.
Yes, we
and Bob. So how did, you know, you guys, is that what you and Kathy just started getting out, you know, in the woods? Did you know, I know you were part of some certain groups and things like that. What else did you do?
So luckily we only lived about 2 hours from each other, something like that. And so I would go down to her place because she was over in Sonora, which is out where there's a lot of activity out there in the what is the name of the forest out there now? Can't believe I can't remember it right now. But anyway, Tuolumne County. And I was living at the time up kind of by Placerville, California. So anyhow, so I would go down there and we would go out in the woods, and we found some really interesting stuff. We had so much fun and did so many things that ended up, we just laugh our heads off. And yeah, so, but anyhow, we found, in fact, she did this big, huge write-up on it, but there was something that we had called the Nest a long time ago, which was a very strange structure that was out in the woods where there weren't any people trails. There was poison oak up to my eyeballs, which I'm super allergic. And I had to put on big black garbage bags and tape them over me like a giant hazmat suit. I looked like an alien when I was out there, and Kathy was laughing because I'm so allergic. I just like look at poison oak and I start scratching. But so anyway, it wasn't a human-friendly environment by any means. And the structure that was built out there, I'm sure there's links to it with Kathy's group and stuff. But anyway, it was something that was a shelter, and the way that it was built, the ends of the branches were broken. They weren't sawed. It was woven together. It was really cool. And that was back in probably 99, 2000, 2001, sometime around then.
It's the same kind, just like our spot, just like my spot had those same.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I could tell you tons of stories about things that we did, because it was just her and I that would go out in the woods, and two women with generally a big box full of candy and goodies and stuff to eat.
for you or to attract the, you know?
Yeah, that was bait. Yeah,
right.
I think it was for them. I think
it would be 1 for you all, 10 for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
One
We
reason
needed it for energy.
Yeah, definitely.
Forget the apples and bananas and nuts. They much prefer Twinkies. No, just kidding. But yeah, I could tell you some funny stories and stuff, that just goofy things that we did that ended up being we just didn't laugh about it, but I don't know. Anyway.
You want to share one?
I know we should. Pardon?
Do you want to share one?
I'll share a real quick one.
Okay.
So Kathy and I had a little pickup truck. So Kathy and I had gone, and we had some sleeping bags, and the back bed was all open, and we had our cooler full of goodies, and so never any alcohol, just candy and soda, and so we had decided to park in the middle of this kind of a dirt area road that was there was a little bit of pavement. It was a windy road that went out through the mountains, and there was a deer trail that was heavily traversed that went down one side, the steep slope, across the road, and then up an embankment. And so we thought, well, you know what? Nobody travels this road. We're just going to park here, and we're going to stay the night. So we parked, and there was a lot of activity in that area at that time. And so we're sitting there and then talking and chatting, and we're sitting on the back of the truck on the tailgate. And all of a sudden we start hearing something really big start coming through the woods. Crash, 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 crunch, branches breaking and stuff. Didn't sound like a deer. It sounded like something big and heavy. And so I said, well, get in the truck. So we jumped off the tailgate and ran into the truck, closed the doors. We're sitting there. And stupid me, this was before really I think I ever had a cell phone, but I had a little camera, probably disposable. And so I thought, well, I'm going to take a picture out my windshield because whatever it is, it'll show in the flash, right? So we're in the camper in the truck, and I take a picture, and I hit the button, and the flash goes off, and it blinds us completely. And it must have been a regular camera because I was able to look at what I just took. And so I'm like, oh God, okay, I get my vision back, and I look at the camera and I look at the picture, and all you can see are all the bugs on the windshield. It didn't go beyond the windshield. So if there was something out there, it probably looked like, the sun went off for a second in the cab that illuminated both of us. Like, hi, here we are, 2 girls. And so we're sitting there and we're going, oh my God, where's the snacks? Oh crap, who's going to go get them? So
you guys were going to sleep in the bed of the pickup truck?
Yeah, we were going to
nothing over you.
Nothing over us,
You guys are brave.
Well, I don't know if it was bravery or just not really thinking ahead about what could possibly happen all the way. We weren't armed at that time, and I think that we learned a lot of lessons. And Kathy is much more level-headed than I am, so she's
very brave too.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And her and I have been in an instance, especially one, where nobody else, we were with a group of people, and we were the only women, and nobody else would move forward towards whatever this thing was. I apologize for the noise down there.
That's okay.
Except her and I. And she's the bravest woman I know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, her story that she told us about being in Area X and seeing 2 adolescent Bigfoots and literally running towards them.
Yes.
That's not something that a lot of people do.
Yes.
So she's definitely, I've already told Tim, because we're not researchers, we're just podcasters and people who are very interested. And obviously Tim wrote a book and the whole thing. But, we keep on getting invited down to Area X. And, but I've never slept in a tent before. Don't laugh. My sister apparently thinks that I can't go because I won't be able to wear makeup when I'm camping. I'm like, why not?
Why not?
You can.
Lip gloss and
Believe me.
You can.
You can make it work because I've done it, and if I can do it, anybody can. Because I am so not going without.
I need a little something, just a little,
Yeah.
It can't be like completely. Back when I was like 20, that's one thing, but not now. But anyway, so I told Tim, like, if we're gonna sleep there, maybe we could take the Jeep and sleep in the Jeep, because I just have this fear that there's a lot of wild animals out there besides Sasquatch. You've got bears, you've got cougars,
Wolves.
and wolves. And then, yes, if you are going to encounter a Sasquatch and they're throwing rocks, which is something that commonly happens, I just kind of would like to be covered. Do you know what I mean? So you guys were really brave sleeping in the bed of a pickup truck.
Well, I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bravery or not, but.
And so do you think that maybe you guys, because, let's talk about the fact that you're a female researcher. So you're a woman in a man's world, kind of, where there's not a lot of female squatchers. So can you think of maybe some pros and cons of that, being a female in the Bigfoot world?
Yeah, definitely. I think that some of the pros are that especially when Kathy and I used to go out together, we live very far apart now, so we don't get to do that, but as much. But anyway, is that as women, so you're exuding pheromones that are quite different. And if there's something out there that's a male that may be just looking for food or looking for a mate or whatever, they're going to pick up on our scent, and they're not going to smell any males. They're going to just smell two women. And so I think it puts us in a vulnerable position, but it also gives us a slight advantage because I think it's more of a draw.
I think it's less threatening, I think, too.
Yeah, it is. I think
Good point.
and so also too, if there was a juvenile or something out there, maybe they would be more apt to come forward, because I know there are women hunters, but I think the percentage is not anywhere near as high as men. So maybe if they've had experience with people before, they had seen hunters, that were armed, or who knows what. I'm totally just hypothesizing here, but so as a woman, I think that is an advantage, and also our voices are softer, so I think that's kind of one of the draws. And also if I don't want to get too graphic, but if it's that time of the month of thing, that might be a draw also, because you're really pumping out the pheromones, so.
Yeah. No, they actually say that when you're ovulating too, that that there is that other type of pheromone that you can't, you can smell it, but you can't consciously smell it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah. So that's okay to talk about that, because that's science and that's nature. So that's totally fine. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And that actually was happening when I had my sighting when I was a kid. It was the first time that had ever happened for me.
Okay.
And I think that's a factor in why it happened, because I was out there in the woods, and that was, like I said, the first time I'd ever had that. And it was, so I
you
think
were young, like preteen then. You were like 12, 13. Okay. Yeah, because so you weren't a child, like a tiny child who could have maybe imagined something, or do you know what I mean? Like you were, like a grown-up kid. Yeah. So that makes a huge difference, I think, for sure, especially with your memory as well.
Yeah, and I was more of a city kid. I was never out in the woods, or it was, so this was kind of a new environment for me, and I was never alone. If my dad would have known I went out there, I would have gotten in big trouble. So he was very protective. But
so what do you think some of the cons are to being a female in the Bigfoot world?
I think initially being taken seriously in some areas, because I think that it just, if you don't have a degree of some kind, which I don't, Kathy does, but I don't. And so it seems like it's a little harder sometimes to kind of gain people's trust in the way that other people can, because they may have more of a background of whatever anatomy year or whatever behind them, and Dr. Meldrum, and of course he's awesome, and so there's, you kind of have to build your reputation more on your on what you get, and your own integrity. Right. So but besides that, I think that just you're it's a little harder. It'd be any male-dominated field to try and sort of swim with the fish is a little bit harder in some ways, just like I said. So, and it depends on who you talk to as well. But, it's...
There's probably definitely a lot more pros than there are cons to being a female in the Bigfoot world.
I think out in the field, yes. But as far as what some people call the Bigfoot community, it's hard to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is definitely interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. So then do you guys go out researching together?
Yes, we always do.
Okay. Okay.
And I guess so. Before we ask them a few interesting things that happened. But before then, so you guys are out in the woods a lot. I already know that. So how do you prepare? And then what do you do when you're out there?
Well, it
depends on the season too, because we have snowmobiles, so we go out, or we like to ride one together, because he's driving it, I'm on the back, and we will he'll be looking to whatever direction, and I can see the back of his head, so I know he's looking that way. So then I look the opposite way, and then when he turns this way, I look that way. So it's kind of a good way to cover more ground when we're together. And then during the other seasons, we just, take cameras, we take equipment.
Yep.
We're usually armed just for safety reasons, and we would not shoot a Sasquatch. But
let me tell you something. This is something I learned that took me many years to learn, because what researchers don't realize is a lot of researchers, when they go out, they don't find things, or they don't have things happen. But when something really big happens, I had something really big happen, and I wish that it never had happened. It was one of those things where, okay, it's here, I'm here, now what? People never, being a researcher, you're looking for this thing your whole life, you're looking and looking, and then when it's there, you all of a sudden the thought that goes through your mind is, okay, am I going to make it out of here alive, or what's going to happen? Because it's a scary thing. People that are researching, they don't realize these things are not a cuddly, friend. These things, you hear all these stories and stuff, but I'll tell you, I had one bluff come charge me, and I thought that was it. I thought that was game over. That was the most awful thing that ever happened.
Kyle, why don't you tell us more details about that? Like, start from the beginning. Okay,
so we have a spot up on the Colville Indian Reservation. It's up above Grand Coulee Dam. And I have a fishing boat. And how I get to these Bigfoot areas is I take my boat, and there's like these sloughs and channels, and it's on the Native American side, it's on the Indian side. And so I take my boat through there, and that's where I like to hang out, because I've met a lot of really nice people over there on that side, and I've exchanged stories, and they've told me stories, and I kind of pinpointed like, well, these things, they live there, so I'd spend as much time as I could there trying to find one and try to see one. And so I took a Ron Moorhead CD, and I had a boat that had big, huge speakers and big loud system. I thought, well, I'm going to play that CD, because there's this big channel that goes all the way up this mountain. It's all solid granite with caves and stuff. And I said, I'm going to play the CD and see if I get something. And so I played the CD. And then the first weekend, I didn't get anything. And then the second weekend, I came back and I played that CD, and I had something mimic exactly what was on Ron Moorhead's CD. And it sounded exactly like it. And then I got really, really excited. And I was like, whoa, and I'm looking through my binoculars and everything, and I hear these trees crashing up top. So I thought, well, I'm going to anchor my boat and jump off my boat. So I anchored my boat, jumped off my boat, swam the shore, and then I tried to meet it halfway up. Well, this thing was mad. I mean, it came down, you could hear the trees just ripping out of the ground. And I was excited, and then when it got too close to me, then I'm like, all of a sudden, like, now what? What's going to happen? Now what? It's what's he going to do? Am I going to make it out of here? Or, because I thought, well, maybe, you always think, oh, they'll see you and they'll run off. Well, that's not what happened. This thing was really mad, and it came down.
So it came out, and you saw it, and it saw you.
Yes. Yep, and it screamed so loud at me. This is the weirdest thing. I've never been. I've been hunting my whole life. I've never been afraid of anything. This sound is I didn't even know that there was something that could make a sound like that. This sound hit me so hard that my insides literally shook and rattled. And it was so loud that I turned around to run to the water, and I couldn't move a muscle. I was totally frozen. I couldn't move a muscle. And it only lasted a couple minutes, but it seemed like forever, because my hands are like this, and I see the water and I see my boat, and all I want to do is, it's the fight or flight. All I want to do is I want to get out of this situation and get to my boat. I couldn't move. It felt like grabbing an electric fence. And it only lasted a couple minutes, like I said, but my back is turned.
That's a long time.
My back is turned, and this thing is breathing, and it's right behind me. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm praying. I'm like, seriously, it's the time that I prayed to God. And I'm like, if you let me go, I'm not coming back here.
So this was the daytime, Kyle?
Daytime.
So you say it froze you. I mean, how long did the scream last?
The scream lasted long enough to, like I said, you've been to concerts and stuff where you're like in front of those big JBL stacks, and the bass just hits you like that. This thing hit me like that. I felt my stomach almost like kind of shocking, like move.
Wow.
It was so loud. It sounded like an elephant, a pack of wolves, a growl from a bear. It sounded like several different animals, but it was so loud. It was just unbelievable. I never in my life ever heard anything like that.
One of the
Now,
things,
were you able to see facial expressions or?
I was so scared because there's this big giant rock and it's in a ravine like this, and this thing's it's ripping things and it's coming down, and it came, and then that's when I ran out to the right of that rock, and it came out from the back, and it kind of jumped out at me, and I just immediately my body turned to the water, and I was like, I'm out. I don't care what this thing. I went out of here. It's such a shock. It was like. And in the back of my mind, like I said, I thought that was it. I honestly thought I wasn't coming back. I didn't think I was going to make it back.
Could you feel the breath or just hear him breathing behind you?
I could just hear him breathing behind me.
tell them what it sounds like.
And it was so weird because the sound of the breathing of it was really nasally, but it was like really deep guttural, but it was nasally, like it couldn't breathe very well. I don't know if it was because of coming down that mountain so fast.
Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm.
One of my buddies he lives up in Colville, and me and him went up there and found some caves, but it took us all day to climb up to the top of that. And it took me, and he's a ranger, and it took me and him all day to climb up to find those caves. It took this thing a matter of minutes to come down that thing.
Well, and you don't know if the Sierra sounds, if that's what if they're a language, if that's what they are.
Right.
Yeah, the thing is, you don't know what they're saying. I don't know what those things
were transmitting. Yeah, you could have been.
It made it very mad. Whatever it was, it was very upset.
That is just the craziest experience.
So now when I go up there and go, because my favorite fishing spots are right in front of it. And when I go by there, I never stop. We just
accelerate.
Right by and like look up and look in my binoculars and look, and I don't go on land there no more. I don't do it.
No wake zone in that area, right?
No, not at all.
Were you able to get an idea of how tall this creature was?
Oh, it was big. I'd say 8 to 9 feet somewhere in there. Because I'm 6'2", and it was 2 feet taller than me, easy.
Okay. And then as far as how wide it was?
It was pretty wide. It was wider than me. I'd say it's probably about 4 feet wide.
Okay. That's amazing.
Yep.
And you're still out there doing it after that. Yeah,
but now I have a gun. I don't go anywhere without my gun usually now. So
you just have to be big enough, right?
No.
That is just crazy, Kyle. That is crazy.
That's what I mean. It's like there's a lot of these guys out here, young guys that see the TV show and they want to go up and they want to look for this thing, but I don't think they realize what they're looking for. I don't think they realize most of them are never going to know how to react or what to do when they do that. Because to me, I don't want to ever get that close to one again. I don't. After that experience, no, I don't. I'll like to see it on the hillside with some binoculars or my FLIR or something, but I don't want to be right next to one of those.
I mean, if you had to think of another animal that we have here on Earth, what did it remind you of?
There was nothing. There was no animal, because I've hunted, like I said, I hunted bears before. I hunted cougars. I've hunted elk, moose. I mean, you name it. But this thing,
I mean, it was on 2 legs.
Yeah, 2 legs, and the speed of it, the strength of it, to just rip trees out of the ground. I mean, you've been up elk hunting, and you got the smaller, sapling trees where the elk they'll crash through the trees, and you'll hear the little trees breaking and stuff like this. But these are like full-size trees that are getting, just obviously its hands were just pushing them and they were just tearing them off, I mean, just think about what they could do to you. I mean, just if they grabbed you, they could just pull your arms off like nothing.
Just be careful what you wish for, I guess.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of people that they're out there, you know, looking like I did all these years, and like I said, I always go back and think about like what am I going to do when I find it? People don't ask themselves that, you know, they just want to see it or they want to have a sighting. But like I said, it's a whole different ballgame when you have something like that happen to you.
Right. And I think this could help researchers too that are interested in the subject. So now when the two of you are out in the woods, you know, what are you documenting? You know, what are you looking for? Or how do you, obviously you just mentioned, Kyle, you don't want to get that close to one of those anymore. So what do you guys suggest and what do you do out there?
Well, we look for a lot of tracks, obviously, you know, and look for different disturbances in the ground. You know, we
Look for scats.
look for scat, you know, look for tracks, look for shelters.
But we try to go out too in areas that historically have had a lot of Bigfoot sightings.
Yep.
So, you know,
We go online. We look at a lot of the BFRO site too. You know, you can go on there and get your county and figure out where they've had sightings, and you kind of look down and sometimes you'll see, you know, where they've had more than one of them, you know, and in a certain time of year, you know, because a lot of them are like right now in the heat of the summer, there's been a lot of sightings when it's really hot, because I think what they're doing is, I think they're moving, they're migrating, you know, they're following the food. You know, we got huckleberries, we got big deer populations, we got water, we got fish, but I think they're trying to stay away from humans too, you know, but they have to think about it. An animal that big has to have a lot of food and it has to have water. So, you know, those are the two things that a big animal has to have.
so if there's researchers out there that are just kind of starting out to get their feet wet a little bit, I mean, it's a good thing to follow the creeks and stuff. Look for prints. That's probably the quickest way to see if it's an active area.
I call those areas right along the creeks and stuff, I call them belts. And usually there's big, tall, you know, where there's creeks or river, there'll be big, tall trees, you know, and even the deer and all the other animals, they use those areas to stay out of, you know, from people seeing them. And those are the areas that people should be researching, you know,
and generally they'll follow the deer migration.
Yep.
So if you see deer tracks, then you're probably in a pretty good spot. So
That makes sense.
So Kyle, having that experience of being so close to one, what do you think they are?
You know, I've tried to ask myself that, because, you know, there's so many people that have so many different opinions and stuff. And I know for a fact it's not an ape. If it was an ape, we would have found one, we would have shot one, you know. It's not an ape. I've talked to other people to where they said that they're very kind of human-like, like a caveman, or you know, some of the Native Americans said that, you know, they're like a tribe of, you know, large people. They're people. To me, there has to be some very highly, they gotta be very intelligent. I mean, to be able to hide from us like this and to be able to eat and be that big and carry on in life, there's something that just does not add up. There's something very strange there, you know.
Well, the correlation too between Bigfoot sightings and UFO sightings is a really weird factor as well.
Yeah.
That we've come across a lot. And
you know, there was a guy named Ray Crow. He passed away years ago, but Ray Crow, he was an Oregon Bigfoot guy, and he was also back home where I live too, but he wrote a book called The Track Record. And what he did is he took UFO sightings and he correlated them with people that had Bigfoot sightings. And that is some very good information. I guess I think David Paulides bought the rights to it after Ray Crow passed away. I think Dave bought the rights to that, all of his stuff,
documentation and stuff.
But it's very interesting, you know, thinking about it. You know, hey, we have lights, and then you have a Bigfoot sighting. But I'm hearing this, you know, even all the way over in Ohio. There's some guys over there that are claiming the same thing. So,
well, even we were lucky enough to go out to Skinwalker in Utah, out in the Uinta Basin.
That
what,
was something
4 years
else.
ago?
Yeah.
3-4 years ago.
That
Anyway,
was something else. I'm
and
telling you what.
So we had a really good viewpoint from where we were, which was the neighboring ranch, which is Space Wolf Ranch.
Which is
so
above. So the ranch sits up here, and then
and then
the other ranch is
Skinwalker
right
area
here.
is right below
So you
it,
can
yeah.
see.
So it's a great view. I mean, the fence is like right there, so you could put your toe over and go, I'm on Skinwalker Ranch, and put your foot back where you are,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, good friends of ours that went out there with us, one of my very close friends, Jackie Meter, and also our friend Barry Fitzgerald. And anyway,
Yeah, Barry came all the way from Ireland, and he was like an encyclopedia. He was so awesome to have along because he's kind of very scientific.
But out there, so the people at Space Wolf Ranch that were there, one of the caretakers had told us that what was it, several months before, sometime recently, prior to us getting there on site, they had a Bigfoot sighting, and they saw 3 of these creatures right around a newly built, kind of like a
building that they're going to put recording equipment in.
Yeah, almost like a bigger version of a tough shed kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And these things had purposely reached up and knocked down the lights.
Those floodlights that are on top there.
And to do that, they would have had to be extremely tall. Now this is right on, it's probably, I don't know, maybe 300 feet from the border of where Skinwalker Ranch, the property starts. And so that whole area is bizarre. And just in the short couple nights we were there, we saw lights in the sky that didn't make any sense.
Orbs.
We saw lights all over the Skinwalker Ridge in fact, I didn't know until the next day that there weren't roads going all up and down Skinwalker Ridge, because it looked like spotlights, like car lights shining on the mountain or mountain ridge, whatever you want to call it. And there's nothing there. So many different bizarre things that we saw. And on the
Skinwalker side, they had these animal cages down there. They actually had animals in there, like they were trying to lure something in. And then all of a sudden you'd hear like goats screaming or something, and then like gunfire and stuff. It's like what's going on down there, But
the point is that really there is possibly some correlation between these creatures and UFO sightings. I don't know what it is, but somehow it seems like they're happening.
It's interesting,
not always, but sometimes at the same time.
We had Dr. Jeff here on the podcast, and the last question that I asked him, because he is an well, I don't know, is he an anthropologist?
Yes.
Did you say Dr. Jeff is? Yeah. The last thing I asked him was, what makes, can you hear us?
Yep.
Yeah, your screen is frozen, but we can hear you. I don't remember.
That's okay. It's not my best look, but my hair looks really crazy. But anyway, I asked him, what makes human beings, in your opinion, so much more intelligent than any other species here on Earth? And he basically said something really interesting. He said, divine intervention, whether that be from the heavens, as in like a spiritual thing, or from the heavens, as in from space. We didn't get into detail about that, but it's an interesting theory. So let's just imagine for a second that somehow through the course of, like they have this theory of the ancient alien theory. Let's just imagine that they've been crossbreeding with human beings for thousands and thousands of years to come up with the most intelligent being that could survive here on Earth. And maybe Bigfoot is one of those experiments that somehow they're still working with, or I don't know. That's just like a little crazy theory right there.
No, I mean,
that's an
we don't know.
theory.
It could be true. We just don't know. I mean, we don't. There's not enough evidence. We know pretty much that when someone does get a blood sample, the DNA comes back as 98% human, I believe, or something to that extent. So it's it's just
it's very closely related,
Yeah, and there's going to be something there that we don't understand. But at this point, we have to all be open-minded to all kinds of theories until we really know what it is.
Yep.
So who knows if there's a connection there with the UFOs, but guess what? I'm open to hear more about it. I'd be open to look into that. So that's kind of cool how you guys have that going on as well.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah,
Definitely.
How do you all feel that the mystery will be solved, or how this will eventually, and this is just a theory, obviously, because we don't know, may be proven to mainstream media, mainstream science?
I don't think anything's going to really happen until there's an actual body, and
Yeah.
a body that the government doesn't have a hold of, but a body that, you know, somebody's grandma just hid it in her Cadillac and somehow it gets to the news media, and is proven to be an actual creature. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen, but in a lot of ways. But again, it kind of needs to. If it is actually a flesh and blood creature, it does need to be protected from people that, you know, if it is proven that it does exist, there's going to be people that want to go out and hunt one.
Yeah.
Get it taxidermied or whatever, and don't understand that you know, it's very, very close to being human from what the DNA says. So,
And I think I also have always thought that maybe that's why the government is the way it is with it. It's because it's better off just letting it be, because, you know, what are they going to do? Are they going to go out there and, you know, round them all up, or, you know? I mean,
Definitely.
It's easier just to say it doesn't exist, right?
Probably safer for them, for sure. Yeah. So
And
I'm sorry, go ahead, Montra.
Oh, there's some people that have had experiences, or an experience, usually just one experience, and it completely rocked their whole world and their whole religious beliefs and everything. And so, I mean, it would really change, I think, a lot of people's view on stuff, because all of a sudden, you know, the boogeyman's real in a lot of people's minds. And so then that opens the door up for a lot more of, you know, the cryptids that could be out there, Mothman and whatever else, you know, that are, you know, the dog man and different creatures like that. So I think it would probably scare a lot of people, and I think it would change some things. Maybe not on a giant global level, or maybe as big of a level as I'm even thinking, but it would change people's perspectives.
You know, in biblical times and stuff, you know, they talk about all these different, they talk about, you know, the troglodytes, and they talk about all these different, you know, beings that they thought that lived below us, below ground. So that kind of opens up, makes it interesting too. It makes you think, well, maybe there's some truth to some of that, you know. You wonder.
So real quick, just as we need to wrap things up, how can our viewers and listeners follow you guys? Like, are you on social media, or do you have a website?
And are you still doing your TV show, Montra?
I haven't for a while. After COVID, we kind of, I didn't go back down. We had a lot of COVID-y type issues. So I haven't done the TV show for a long time, but you can contact us through Facebook. I mean, I'm under Montra Withers. He's under Kyle Gibson. We have a website that is super old, has not been updated. It's super embarrassing.
No, it's a good website though. It's good.
We haven't touched it in years.
It was good. It has a lot of good stuff on there.
One of the last things that was on there is actually something that we have not updated, but we need to desperately. And that was a picture that we got when we were out in the woods. And but we use it as part of our presentation when we do speaking engagements, and that is that anybody can be fooled, even us. And I'll just say it really quickly. I know we're probably super short on time if we're not over already here, but and if you need to cut me off, do so. So I don't want to keep this. But anyway, we were out snowmobiling, doing our thing, and we stopped because we saw movement, backed up, and it looked like a Sasquatch standing off in a snowy embankment behind a tree watching us.
Yeah, it was at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And so I took pictures. I jumped off the snowmobile. I was going to run towards it, and Kyle said, "Don't get off the snowmobile because there's a ravine that you can't see that's buried in the snow." It's just buried in snow.
So if you step off of there, you'll disappear.
And I'm
oh my God.
And I'm 5'5" and a half on a really good day.
12 feet of snow.
And so he's like, you can just imagine I could just go down into the snowbank and he'd never see me again. But anyway, and And so we got these pictures and we were like, wow, afterwards we watched for a long time. It was completely stationary. And it was kind of one of those things where now what do we do? So we ended up going, okay, well, I guess
it was getting
just
late.
go. Yeah, it's still standing there. So we left and got the pictures and blew them up and looked at them and everything. And I'll be darned, you could see a face and everything, right?
You see, like, it looked like even hair.
Oh, you could see a brow ridge and everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so fast forward, what was it, a year later?
Yeah.
Or no, actually it would have been 6 months later, because then it was in the springtime summertime. We went back up there with a friend and with a couple friends, and we found the spot. And GPS kept getting thrown off because of satellite and everything else. We kept getting weird readings. But anyway, finally found the spot, and it was a tree snag that had burned and was dark black. And
it was weird because it's kind of oval too,
Yeah, and you could see, because the snow had now melted, so you could see all underneath it how it looked like it was standing, because that would have been the snow level right there.
Right.
And so we thought we had the holy grail.
We thought we had the deal.
Even Peter Byrne was
like
so interested.
Everybody was like, "That's the best one I've ever seen."
Oh my God, that's there. And so
because that area is a hot spot. That area has like lots of stuff.
And we've got recordings up there.
We have recordings of two of them talking to each other. And
so anyway, once we saw that, we were like, no,
Yeah.
Oh man.
Hey, you know what? It happens, and you can be fooled by things because they do look so much like what you are wanting them to be.
And so advice and lessons.
That is great advice. That even the experts can be fooled.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so that's a good thing to know.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's hard to not kick yourself for a little while, but you know what? Afterwards, it's kind of like it's a good lesson to learn, because.
But that's why you do go back and look at those things, because sometimes weather is permitting. Sometimes.
Yeah, you need to always double check to debunk anything you can, and make sure that what you saw was real and what you got a picture of is actually what it is. The two we heard up there, though, that were talking back and forth to each other, that was crazy, because we were the only ones up there. It was raining so hard that when you step outside, it was like you took a shower. It was raining that hard. Yeah.
And there was two of them up on the ridge line, and they were talking back and forth. And one of her cameramen from the show, it was his first time to Washington. He was in our back seat. He rolled the window down. And he recorded him.
Yeah, he had the sense to actually hit the record button on his phone, and we didn't. We were just sitting there like,
we're just like, this is great.
Not recording anything like
we
ding dongs.
We get a lot of stuff, but all through the years we get lots of tracks, and I never even took pictures of them. I'm just like, okay, another track.
Wow.
Right.
Well,
even though we like
this has been. You guys are amazing.
This has been awesome. We're so sorry about the camera malfunction.
Oh, no problem. Well,
at least you guys are still here with us.
At least we can still see your beautiful faces. But it was so awesome having you guys on the show. We definitely want you to come back, because I'm sure you have a ton more stories.
We have a lot more stuff. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to have you back then.
And we'll add. We'll before this airs, we'll get information on your website. Give you some time to update it. Just kidding.
Yeah.
And we'll add that to the show notes. And
I just added you as a friend on Facebook.
Oh, perfect. Great. Well, thank you guys for having us. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a
good night.
Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.